Oh, I
All
should
right.
ask you, what are our topics and all that? Like, it's just like a standard interview. I mean,
Yeah, just like a little bit about comics. Basically hobbies. Basic
sure.
interview. All right. All right. Hold on one moment. Just need to get this link out. Hey,
Oh, what should I call you? Like first name or rebirth or what?
you can call me Rebirth.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get like a link out on Twitter real quick.
Sure,
Hopefully,
sure, sure.
sent.
We'll retweet it too. Oh, yeah. This is Tim. Mike's here as well. Hello.
Hi.
We're in on the same. We're sitting next to each other. So,
All right. Link is out. Welcome everyone to Indie Table with Column.
hello. Hello.
Right. So I guess introduce the the introduce yourself to the viewers.
Okay. Um, my name is Tim, and I am the creative director slash writer of Column Volume One. We are a production company called Rolling Productions, but it's essentially Mike and I, who Mike's here, why don't you say?
Hi, yeah, Mike. I am his business creative partner, I guess, in Robbling Productions.
Definitely. But yeah, essentially, like we're the core Roleplay Productions, but we also, we hire our artists and we have our voices and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're the core. So that's us. We're the creators of the Column graphic novel series, which launched in April, and we're looking to expand it and hopefully start on Volume 2 soon.
Oh, sounds fun. Good luck on that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So how did you two get into comics?
Well, as for getting into comics itself, for me personally, when I was a kid, I had a lot of the Star Wars comics, and comics were more of just kind of part of the general media I consumed. I didn't really focus on that. Definitely focused more, moved from basically comic collecting to video games pretty much early on. And I ended up falling back into it because we met our artist. Initially, Column was going to be basically a light novel series with chapter pictures and some kind of illustrations mixed in, particularly to show characterization. And we met our artist, and he said, "Look, this would really work well as a graphic novel." So I started looking back into the comics and indie comics and what to do, and we ended up basically committing to doing it as a graphic novel, and that's how we ended up falling into the industry. Mike, do you want to add anything to that?
Not too much. In fact, yeah, I won't. I don't want to be a poser. I actually wasn't into comics as a kid for what it. Not that I disliked them or anything. I just never fell into it, and I'm actually, to be honest, just kind of getting into them now. I was more me and Tim's friendship from childhood was actually more based on video games and then anime. Actually, I've read a couple manga, and I'm just kind of getting into Western comics like right now, to be honest. So I can't speak too much, or I don't want to pretend like.
Yeah, one of the things with Column that makes it so different is it's really kind of an amalgam, and it's focused on the storytelling and the characters of what we want to say, and it just so happens the medium in which we're doing that is graphic novel. I come from a screenplay background in college, so of course my idea originally was like, okay, do basically a pilot for an animation. That's obviously super cost prohibitive. And then after having met our artist and him talking to us and kind of convincing us, like, hey, look into the comic scene. See, this is probably a really good way to be able to utilize audio since you're doing that separate, and also utilize the character storytelling that we're doing. So, that's that's why we're here.
So, what's the difference between a graphic novel and a comic?
Semantical. I mean, comics typically they refer to like I usually have heard it referred to like where there's like single issues, and then when the single issues get stacked, it ends up being a graphic novel. Sometimes the graphic novels they tend to have a different outlook in terms of publishing because they're comics are kind of looked at more as you consume them, and then maybe you'll throw it away, kind of like a magazine when you're done with it. Although pretty much nobody does that. Everybody usually ends up keeping their comics. Graphic novels are more in the book sphere. We're happy doing either one. Our publisher, Anarchy Press, is not interested in doing individual issues for Column at the moment. So if you guys want that, you'll have to pester them. So, but that's kind of why it's a graphic novel. So it's basically a really fat comic with audio.
All right. And you said that you guys are like hold on. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I don't remember what I said either. So
said something about anime. Like, was that inspiration for
huge
like voice
inspiration?
acting?
Huge inspiration. Particularly, well, actually, it kind of ties into video games because one of our favorite series is the Mel Gear Solid series, and from the first game in that, and other games have adopted this in similar ways. The codec conversations, real simple. It's kind of just a comic, really. It's a 2-panel comic with not much changing, and most of the characterization is done through the audio performances. Now, we fell in love with that, and we started, basically like, oh, this voice actor's in this, and this, and this, and like, I love Ace Combat 5, and finding out like, oh, this person was in this, and this person was this. So, we got familiar with Jennifer Hale and Steve Bloom and kind of the people from the early 2000s. Somehow, we ended up making our way over to anime, and we realized that there was a lot of like really good Western adaptation and characterization happening in that sphere. So then we would, basically like an actor in something, and then we would buy the next thing that they were in. And then we kind of, with the way it is with anime, where like people, particularly like Lucy Christian, like one of the first animes we saw was Full Metal Panic, still one of our favorites. And
maybe, sorry,
no, go ahead.
You're getting on the topic of voice actors. We didn't really describe anything about the audio. Maybe we should mention that in addition to being a book, there's like an extra audio portion that, and hi, this is Mike speaking again. Just I don't know how similar our voices sound. Yeah, probably somewhat. Tim is the creator of the whole universe and series and the primary writer. I'm listed as editor, so I contributed a bit to the writing, but it's a lot. He kept me on track. Well, yeah, it's like still easily 95 to 98% him. But my other main responsibility was handling an accompanying audio thing that is mostly it's a little bit music, which I wrote and recorded and stuff, and most of it is character audio logs that basically give backstory and extra characterization and stuff that we didn't want to like overly cram a million lines within the book itself, but this way we thought would be a cool way to heighten the experience or give people a deeper understanding.
Yeah, hence the whole voice acting thing, and we just well, that's what I'm saying. Like we loved the way the storytelling was done in a lot of video games, and then we loved the talent and performances of the people in the anime industry, and we sort of took kind of how we felt that would translate to our story with the limited way we could do it, because we couldn't do an animation and we couldn't do a video game, and we kind of took what we liked about that and reached out to some actors and really their agents, and they were interested, and we had saved up to do it, and we're like, all right, so we got the best we could. And some people don't really care about the audio at all, but the people who seem to like it are really, really into it. They really love it. So we're happy. I mean, it's definitely something we would love. It was something that would, even when we weren't interested in comics, we would have turned our head and looked at. So maybe we'll bring in some more people.
All right, so where did the idea for Column come from?
Well, there's a lot of convoluted things happening. Particularly, Mike and I were working on a game for somebody, and it fell through, and we were just annoyed that this wasn't the first time particularly me, had worked on a project that just collapsed. where I wasn't even getting paid for it, but I was working on it, and then the person who was running it just became disinterested and then disappeared. So we had been working on something that had to do with tanks and stuff, and we were like, you know what, we kind of like this theme. We had done a lot of brainstorming as to the best way to show these tanks, and the idea was essentially characterization through the crews. Well, that evolved into essentially column, where you have basically the female crew of column. They're kind of an amalgamation of the American spirit in a lot of ways, and they're very American, to say to kind of simplify the way it is. And as they travel throughout Europe and they travel throughout Asia, they're going to be meeting these other crews who are going to be more. Not only is there going to be different tanks, like the British have a Challenger 2 and the French have a Leclerc, but also their crews will kind of personify the entire country in a lot of ways. And basically character-driven storytelling with that sort of as the backing theme. And that was sort of what the framework of column was set out as, and then the rest of it is basically storytelling exercise.
All right, so what's your favorite genre to work on and your favorite genre to read?
Well, I like action and comedy, and that's what this is, and this is our first project. So in terms of like working on it, this is definitely something. It's hard to say like what my favorite to work on is. I mean, definitely I love working on column, and I love doing action comedy, but I don't think I'd be married to that necessarily. I'm not a big horror person, but recently, particularly like The Chair, by Alterna, and there was a couple other comics out there that just were like really simple, but like really dark, and they had like an atmosphere to them, despite them being on the page. And it's a horror genre atmosphere, and I've been doing some preliminary story setup for horror, and I've actually really surprised how much I enjoy that for someone who's not really big into horror movies. So I'm constantly discovering. It's hard to say like, oh yeah, what's your favorite thing to work on? And the answer is the thing I'm working on at that moment. That's usually the favorite thing I'm working on. So, Mike, I don't know how that.
My tastes are pretty much the same. One thing I'd probably add is I like mystery, like detective mystery, courtroom drama kind of stuff. I remember. I haven't read it in a while, but there's like a Ace Attorney manga that my sister-in-law got me one year for Christmas that I dug that. So I don't know. I got to find some Western things that fit that
Western
bill.
equivalents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who done it? That's the. Sorry, I couldn't think of the term.
Yeah. Don't really know, but I actually have. Oh, go ahead.
Well, musically, I mean, metal.
Oh, right.
Because I guess
okay. Technically, if we're talking about what we work on, since I'm also, like I said, the audio guy. I like all kinds of music. I guess like hard rock and metal are almost my. Well, that's one of the. Although we want the music for this series to be really diverse over the course of it. It's like Tim was saying, kind of with sort of to somewhat mirror the thing you were saying about the tanks being, I guess, an embodiment of the spirit of whatever nation they happen to be in at the time. In
some ways, the spirit of the storytelling has music to it.
Yeah, and so hopefully, right now there's just like 8. Oh, well, that's the other big thing is there's. Sorry, I'm sorry, I don't even remember what he said so far, but the if you said anything about the plot, but
I vaguely touched on the story. What's happening?
Yeah, there's because of this disruptor device in it. It's sort of set technology back to kind of how it was during the Cold War, even though this is set in 2029. And because of that, we like the main theme that you can hear on YouTube if you go to our channel or whatever is based mostly on the main theme from the movie Commando, the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Big shout out to that.
Point being, like 80s soundtrack music or just the 80s vibe is a big
particularly
part of
for this first installment. It's we want to start from there essentially. So that's hopefully you can hear that through the music. I hear it. So Although it's tough when you're the one who's the creator, you know.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I actually have a copy of the chair.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you got one in front of you. Yeah. It's
Yep.
I will never spoil that for anybody, but I really enjoyed it. In fact, I would say I know there's a film, but honestly, just go with the book. It's a better ride because you get to kind of absorb what's happening and look back at panels and think about things, and then when I'll just say when it hits you, it's got a lot more juice to it when you've I think read it at your own pace. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I still haven't seen the movie. Should though. And what would be your least favorite genre to work on?
Least favorite?
Yep.
I mean,
Well, I mean, since this is he's self-employed in this endeavor. I mean, maybe if you were working at a big studio and you like had to do projects.
I might
I don't know
discover
that-
more of like what I hate
Yeah.
by being forced to do something.
I think he's lucky. You know,
I'm not into identitarian stuff. If that makes me cringe, but like that's also not how I write, and I don't know if that's really a genre. So I don't know. I really don't know what my what I would say I'd hate. I'm sure I could. I'm sure, especially if I love the characters and I create the characters, I'm sure I could learn to love whatever it was they were in.
All right, so
Like, do you have a least favorite genre of music?
oh boy.
country.
You know what? Honestly, if I'm trying to keep it positive, but if I had to say one, yeah, I actually would agree with that. Especially the like kind of like I like the old folkier country stuff. Kind of like it's not like my main thing that I'm listening to all the time, but maybe like Johnny Cash or something.
It's like a folk rock.
When it was
kinda,
like the had a more raw or let me say unpolished sound because I guess felt I don't know. Yeah, I guess like there's certain.
I would say that the country I don't like is the country that reminds me of modern pop, where it's like kind of this overproduced. It just doesn't do anything for me, you know. But yeah, no, I was saying I like all of Johnny Cash, but I guess country gets the short end of the stick with genre wise.
Yeah, least favorite probably have to be country. Um, Whatever music they have playing on the radio.
What do they call it? Trap? They call it. I think that's like a music.
I think so.
Yeah, it was sort of the popular rap style of the last decade crossover. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that's going. I think it's kind of like dubstep, or just kind of comes and goes.
Oh, why dubstep? Thank you for taking us back. 2011, baby.
I don't know. I mean, how much
Right,
dubstep
well-
could you listen to versus country? Like, if I think it was one song, I'd rather listen to dubstep. But if you just had to like be stuck with that genre, would it be dubstep or country? I think I might rather take country.
I don't know. I mean, I could do it with like dubstep, but I know I might have to think about this.
I don't know if there's
Sure.
really a right answer. I mean, it comes
Yeah,
down to
I'm sure.
personal taste.
Polarizing people right now. Like, it was, but hey, that's the beautiful thing with having the choice to listen or consume whatever.
Yeah, if you like it, you like
tickles
it.
your fancy.
Don't let me stop you just because I don't like it. I mean, I love some pretty trash anime, to be honest.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's definitely not a. What was it? Mike Sidlasta from Red Letter Media. He was talking about. He was like, "Well, don't take my word for it. I love really terrible ghost chasing TV shows,
Yeah.
and like I totally understand.
I love those shows.
Yeah, but like they're objectively terrible, but there's something about them you can't turn them off. Like we were watching that Bigfoot one, was it?
Oh yeah, there's a.
We quote that all the time just because. Damn, we were entertained. It's horrible. It's garbage. It's low tier television, but man, it's fun sometimes. So I guess it's kind of like junk food. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to eat potato chips the rest of my life, but I enjoy them.
Yeah. All right, so what trash anime are you into?
I might be being a little harsh here, but stuff like what was the one I watched? Mocking Key was like the last one I think I watched that was just utterly. It was just terrible on all fronts, but it became so bad that I actually kind of enjoyed it, particularly the dubs, because they get a little more. They take a little bit of liberty with the way they dub things in, and that's one that's a good example of, particularly like at season 2, where they kind of were just like, yeah, this isn't going anywhere, and it's too ridiculous, so we're gonna change some stuff up. Was it Tyson Reinhardt? He was playing this like German teddy bear.
Oh,
it's like the
German teddy bear?
yeah, like it was. I don't know if you guys watch Bleach, but like Cone from Bleach, but just imagine him like 1,000 times worse. But they're like, oh, he's got a backstory where it seems like he might have been from like Germany in the 40s. So then they just give him this like really thick German accent the whole time, and it just ends up being hilarious. And there's an entire episode where they're parodying like a scene from Downfall, but then they just took it to the absolute maximum or like they just were like referring to the one I think it was Anthony Bowling's character as the Führer, and it's just like it gets just so out of hand, and that's really thanks to the English dub. And is it a terrible show? Objectively, yes, but was it unbelievably entertaining to me? Yeah, it really was. So that's I guess that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, probably similar. It's because I think he and I like the comedy, like the maybe slice of life, if you want to, or things like vaguely, and a lot of the more comedic ones tend to a decent. I mean, some of them are like Nietzsche Joe, which I haven't watched yet.
Yeah,
more wholesome, but a lot of them are like end up being like harem animes.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I get for whatever reason, I'm sure because it sells well. But which can be rarely they can actually be legitimately good shows. I think, although there's still the goofy, girls punching each other's clothes off kind of stuff. It's like I don't know. It's. I guess I'd have to, even though if the show can be good otherwise, it's like I can't imagine recommending that to someone. Be like, yeah, I can watch that show. But it's like, I guess if you have a tolerance or you know what to expect, I don't know.
Yeah,
those kinds of shows, there can be fun in them and value in them.
Yeah.
What's
the I almost say the original one of the first ones that we fell in love with because it was so bad it was good was Masters of Martial Arts.
Oh boy,
like that's one of those shows where like it's just about like punching and clothes flying off, and it's so ridiculous, and the dub is so funny that I absolutely wasn't.
The ending is madness. Don't spoil that.
The ending is mind blowing.
It sounds like a name for a hentai.
It kind of does. It's one of those ones that's like it was pretty much made strictly for titillation, and but I laughed so hard at it. It was so like because they play it so straight, which I think is part of what adds to the comedy of it all, and it's something uniquely Japanese. And this, again, I recommend the dub because the dub is where you just get to drink it all in. The airliner pub puns and just it's
right.
It's ridiculous. So.
All right, so any movies or TV shows you guys seen?
Oh yeah.
I've been pretty bad on movies. I think the last movie I went to was the remake of Death Wish. I think that was actually the last one I went to.
Well, hey, that fits in with the 80s.
Yeah, we do love our 80s action
theme, although I guess that's a 70s movie actually, the original one, but I mean, I'll go back and forth between like anime and then actually, like I said, I'm just getting into like probably a lot of people, perhaps to the chagrin of some people who've been comic fans for a long time. I've probably more of my Marvel consumption has been TV shows and movies than comics as of yet. Like I said, no, I'm starting to get into them. But that's probably. I mean, if just keeping it in comic book realm vaguely, I guess. I saw Endgame and I've watched. I really like the I really liked the Netflix Daredevil show a lot.
That's one I have not started. I've heard
speaking of not that had a ton of courtroom drama stuff, but there were.
Oh, he's an attorney, right?
So yeah, he's an attorney. Yeah. That was and there was some great martial arts shots in that. There's one, I think it's like the third or fourth episode in the second season. It's like a one shot going down I mean, it might not literally have been one shot because nowadays you can use like digital transitions to kind of gloss over literal different takes, but still the choreography was amazing. Like there's a fight going down a staircase. If anyone,
well, and we love our Jackie Chan films and stuff. So, so that's kind of in the same vein.
So that show's tight. I don't know. Just trying to. Oh well, so I don't know if we're just going stream of consciousness here, but one show that Tim and I have both seen that I would say is relevant to column style or part of it, the comedy, is the show Psych.
Yes. They were basically Sean and Gus were a huge.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know what that show is, it's again with the whodunits. It is technically it's about a guy who's like insanely observant and stuff, and a great private eye who
he's like a photographic memory and all this other stuff.
Who fakes being a psychic so that he can basically work with the police department
to solve crimes.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
It's I love that show.
And so it has a buddy.
It's kind of a buddy cop sort of thing. If you watch the show, definitely Jack and Hatch's interactions were 100% inspired by Sean and Gus in that show. Definitely heavy influence. So that's I forgot about Psych. Yeah, Psych is a big influence. Show. Yeah.
So, if you could, would you make a column cartoon or perhaps a column game?
Either or, in a heartbeat. It's someone wants to approach us. It's funding. That's the issue. I got the ideas. The screenplay is adaptable. I could do that in pretty short order, but it's just a matter of funding. So I'd be all about that.
Yeah, that it's basically just it costs a ton if we were. I mean, that's why usually there are studios and stuff producing all these things.
Yep.
But if that would be a dream come true, I would say probably because and Tim isn't lying. He's the kind of person who or I should say, well, lying, but he's not exaggerating about having the ideas and stuff. You have how many notebooks full of? Have you filled over the years?
I've actually gotten to the point where I've actually thrown some stuff out because I was back to it 15 years later. I'm like, this was garbage. Throw it out. but it's.
I should say you're a very creative person, a type of person who thinks about. I would say from like what is the? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the word. Yeah. Like like from the like a big perspective, and
I overscale. I'm very, very guilty of that. That's for sure. I'm like, this would be an awesome.
Well, I meant
shooter that
I
can't
my like most of my contributions to the book and stuff are like specific jokes or like because I don't have that skill at all.
Micro more than macro.
Yeah, very rare. Like I've had literally one series that we've talked about where I've like invented characters or something, but for whatever, like that kind of thing doesn't come naturally to me. So I'm always impressed by Tim's seemingly endless ability to.
I'm good at running with stuff too. Like I have to stop myself from being like, oh, you know what? Let's just do like a fan fiction of this. Like I have like an entire season of Power Rangers lined out that I would want to do, but it's like that's a property. You're never going to get that opportunity. So just do the creative exercise and write it down, but kind of accept the fact that it's not happening. So
I haven't seen Power Rangers in like years now.
I haven't either, but just it came to me and I was like, I would really love to do something and like that, and just whatever.
It's good practice.
Yeah, it's practice. It's ideas. I mean, maybe we'll do our own superhero color team thing. Problem is like you get good ideas and you're like, okay, I can't get the original franchise, so why not just rip it off? And it's like, then they're gonna know you couldn't do it. That's why you did what you did.
No, you should, but have colors that no one else uses.
Yeah, like
cyan,
Ranger.
vermilion, amber,
Yes,
lime, magenta.
Yes.
Just the all shifted one.
Yes.
So
Like
no
we are
indigo.
playing Power Rangers. Too.
yeah, there's no Indigo Ranger.
I might actually have to Google that now. Is there an Indigo Ranger? Because it could be.
There might be. It's that just sounds cool, so it probably does exist.
I'm going to Google that once I get done with you guys. All right, so explain your creative process, like script, storyboarding, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, it depends on what the end game is.
Well, start with column.
Well, let me start with
That's
okay,
what
so
we're
column.
writing.
After the idea has been established and the story has been outlined. So let's just say we have the idea, we built the things, and now it needs to happen. The first thing that's important in terms of what you have backup is you have a character sheets and documents, not only detailing where you think you're going with the story, what the themes are, who the characters are, how they're arcing, every detail, even if it's minute, like this is their eye color and this is what they're wearing and they have this and why did they have this gun or whatever. You just write those details in. If you use it, great. If you don't, it's okay. It's not something that people could see. So you can always change things and change the what a character's motivation is. I mean, for example, like Kara's color was orange and Millie's color was green, and then at some point that had changed to being basically teal and orange. Like Millie got the orange, and it's like in some of the original documents that's not what it says, but that's fine, and nobody ever knows that unless I tell them, essentially. But like having a good foundation to work off of really helps. Okay, so you do that, then you work on essentially with the outline. You work on this. You work on the script, and then for a comic, you have to start dividing it up into panels. Once you've divided it up into stuff, you have to start cutting things like crazy. After that's ready, you do layouts. After the layouts are done, you still cut things like crazy. Then you have the dialogue inserted with the line work. Basically, you have the line work dialogue, so that kind of happens at around the same time if you can. Then you cut more if you can. It sounds like there's a lot of cutting, and it's because there is. It's because storytelling, especially with like comics and stuff, like sometimes you just have to cut lines and just show it with an expression on the person's face. It just makes it easier and makes it better for the reader. So you do that, and then you do the color, and then you have to go to the final formatter who puts it in the book form, and then printing, publishing, all that kind of stuff. That's essentially the mechanical creative process. As for if you're talking like, how do I come up with the stories and stuff and the characters and where's the inspiration for that? I take a notebook or preferably a 3-ring binder and I just start throwing stuff at the wall and writing stuff. And then from that, somehow get enough of an organization to put a story together with the characters. And then you start creating things like Google Docs and all that. And that's basically, it's how you build the backbone. You don't need it all done to start, but it certainly helps. And that's actually the majority of where the work in terms of difficulty comes from. And that's the majority of what I have basically sitting on back burner is most of that stuff. Because it's always nice to be able to return to a project and then look at your notes and be like, oh, I remember what I was thinking. Now all I need to do is write the scene. That's much, much easier than saying, okay, well, I was going to do this and I kind of remember. And then you have no documentation to look back to as to like what the characters were and whatnot. So it's harder to get back into the zone. So, yeah, that's my creative process. I don't know, Mike, you want to?
Yeah, that's I think I'm a person who always like I never, when I was in school and stuff and had to write essays, I would never do rough drafts. I was very like concerned about editing myself before almost committing anything to being written down, which is generally probably going to be a bad habit.
Yeah,
I would say
if you want to be, if you want to be, for me to.
Yeah, if you want to be.
Well, that's why I do the 3-ring binders, because if you don't like a page, you can take it out and replace it with a better one.
Yeah, so I would.
You can't do that with notebooks.
If you're like that, you should probably try to change that habit. Honestly,
yeah,
if you want to, it's just like write
90%
out
of what you're going to write and come up with is terrible, but you have to write that 90% down in order to get the 10% that's any good.
And I guess the other thing you did briefly say it was, and I'm sure people like we're 30 years old. Anyone who's younger than us probably isn't going to need this advice, but definitely use technology to your advantage as far as like collaborating. For instance, we actually, because of this took so long to fund, like we actually started Column in 2013, I think. Yeah, so it took. Well, we finished it last year, but then then it took a while. We had to eventually get funding to actually print it and have it re-released. But so it took like 5 years. But again, whatever. Anyway, point being, back then I was still off at college, like halfway across our state, but because of Google Docs, for instance,
we were able to work at the same time.
Yeah, and give each other notes and stuff. And
even when you're sitting right next to somebody, if you both have computers and are able to work in the same dock, that makes a huge difference. Take full advantage of that if you can.
Yeah, and not that that's necessarily a Google ad. I mean, I'm sure there's other platforms, but generally, yeah, I would recommend using technology to your advantage and as much as possible.
I mostly have like a combination of like notebooks, but lately I have been using my phone a lot more to jot down notes.
Yeah, that's so I guess that used to be the old thing, is you would have to, before that you'd have to like walk around with a notepad if you wanted to avoid ever accidentally, like if you're out and have a great idea and need somewhere to, whereas now, your phone, I do.
For me, definitely a little notebook's easier, but phone, and that makes a huge difference for a lot of people, especially because like you can have a living doc. Mike and I can both edit the same document from our phone and know what we're looking at, like what we're both thinking, essentially. Well, also like we do, when we're visiting comic shops and we take notes and stuff. We write everything down that people we met and whatnot. We just put that in basically a living doc on Google Docs, and that makes a huge difference. So we only forget half the people instead of 90% of them.
Now, see, that was how I used to do my stuff before my phone. Not write anything down and hope.
That doesn't work out, but it's a hard habit to break. I mean, I can't even count the number of times where like I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll write that down when I get home or when I'm done, whatever, and then I either didn't do it or just completely forgot what I was thinking in the first place.
And then 2 days later, you remember, oh, I had a great idea the other day. What was it?
Yep.
And then that's gone forever. So,
I had solved this problem. I knew what I was going to do, character-wise or plot-wise or game design-wise, and then it makes you have to do the work all over again.
Yeah. So definitely act immediately if you can.
Yeah. Impulsively write things down, even if it's terrible, because at least it's written down. You're 90% ahead of everybody else just by doing that.
All right. So when it comes to your reading material, do you prefer indie comics or mainstream, or a mixture of both?
In terms of my personal experience, I've definitely had more fun with indie than mainstream. I can't say the same. Well, manga is different, but in terms of like comics, like American comics, I've definitely had more fun with indie than I've had with mainstream. But I've also haven't been exactly into it as long as maybe, well, really, as not my entire 30 years of life. So
yes, only 5.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, about 5.
Wow.
But and then when I was like a kid, I had like Star Wars comics and stuff. But I guess those were mainstream. But been many years.
I guess my answer is I don't know yet, because like I was say, I was literally just buying stuff. Speaking of Daredevil, I got one of the old Frank Miller compilation. Oh my God, why am I blanking on the word?
Omnibus.
Not compilation. Omnibus, that's the word. But I I need to borrow some stuff from. I started reading Gunslinger Girl again. I don't know if anyone's into manga. I had read that a few years ago. I was just in the mood for that, but of course now that's taking away from my ability to get into Western comics.
Another one of those ones that died after 2 seasons, and it makes me so sad.
Oh, the show, yeah, that was
the show.
Sad, but at least the comic finished, or the manga rather finished.
Actually, I think the last manga I read was, oh crap, it's been a while. Probably Death Note or Full Metal Alchemist.
Definitely a big fan of the Death Note anime. That was really good.
Yeah, that's
well, again, another detective style.
Yeah, it's a whodunit,
it's a psycho
thriller. And it has, of course, the greatest of Netflix adaptations.
No, we will never mention that.
I know.
Let's
moving on.
Please, let's move on.
I get upset when I feel like I could write a better adaptation than them. And I've watched the anime a couple times, but like I didn't live in it, and I feel like I could have adapted that better. You know what the show reminded me of? Early 24. It had the similar pacing. If they had done that, that's probably the director they should have hired. Was the director from 24. He would have made that work.
Although, I mean, I don't know. Did they ever make a great 24 movie? Because the pacing and stuff with movies versus a show is kind of.
Well, I wouldn't have tried to go as far in the story as they did. I would have just done like that first. Like those first like 4, maybe 5 episodes, and then like end it there, and then make people demand more.
Although, I mean, I guess whoever's funding it ultimately has the. Perhaps they made the decision that it had to be a. Complete. I guess it was 2. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but. It did run like the movie itself covered the whole series, right?
I don't know.
Well, okay. Again, moving on. Who cares?
No, it didn't because here I'm trying to remember how it ended.
Now see,
L's still around. Like it didn't do the whole.
Oh, damn! Spoilers.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, I'm probably not gonna finish watching the movie because 15 minutes in,
it's really bad.
Yeah.
Well, they've also changed the characters, and it's not even a matter of like, oh, it's in the United States. They could have adapted it actually really well to be in the United States, but they didn't adapt the characters. Like the characters are not the characters; they're just whatever that is.
Just people with the same names.
Yeah, exactly. Just people with the same names, but it's not the characters. And again, people can't get attached to because of the characters and the characterization. And if you don't deliver that, then what are you doing? What's the point?
All right, so if you could, what comic company would you like to work for? Hypothetically.
They all kind of seem like landmines. I don't.
Yes,
I don't have one that's necessarily like, oh, this is the dream job. I mean, I would love to like work for like a studio that dubs like either Funimation, Sentai, somebody like that. If I were like from a director standpoint. But from like a comic creator standpoint, I think it would just depend on what the property was. Like if it was something I really loved, and if they treated us really well, then I'm happy to work for whoever. So I mean, right now we're completely self-funded, so I work for myself, which is fun, but also really a struggle. So I don't have. I mean, I wouldn't want to be tied down, but also I don't want to necessarily snub anywhere or say that. This is my dream job in terms of working for, because it can be finicky.
Yeah. Actually, you mentioned working with like a dub thing. I guess because my experience is more in the audio, I would probably have to be doing something maybe related to like the shows or movies or something with audio.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. I don't know. I've never aspired to it necessarily, so I'm not like itching to move out to LA or something as far as working in like movies or whatever, but I would not turn it down.
So, yeah.
I don't know, just doing I guess audio. Probably I like the mixing. I like the post-production aspect more so than recording, although it would be sweet to be on a movie set.
Yeah.
If we were like on a freaking Avengers set or some Marvel movie. But yeah, that would be cool. I'd probably any big budget film or show, like doing the audio for that would probably be a really cool experience. Although I imagine there's downsides or stressful parts of every job. So
yeah,
sure, deadlines or something is. But hey.
So, where did the idea for Raw Blink Productions come from?
Well, as a company in general, it just came out of necessity that we wanted to make something that we could sell. So we needed an LLC. Well, yeah, I should say, and that we were doing it together. It wasn't just one of us. So we needed a company. As far as the name for it, because I'm sure you've noticed that's quite a bizarre name. Going all back towards the beginning of the interview, we brought up our history with the Metal Gear Solid series. So if anybody plays Metal Gear Solid 2, the ending, there's some weird codec calls. I don't even want to spoil it. Where the person kind of babbling, and they're like funny, and we just grabbed a quick phrase out of there, just that we thought we were just testing phrases to see how they rolled off the tongue.
I think we still have that document somewhere.
Yeah, so it's at least, even though it's a bizarre name, that makes it, I guess, memorable, hopefully. And it's also easy to say, though. It's not like something that's difficult to comprehend at a glance.
Although on the phone, trying to like say your email address.
Oh yeah,
we've
had multiple people thinking that we were Rob Link, like a guy's
like
name.
My name is Rob Link,
like Robert Link.
Where did you get Rob Link from?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you just say it on the phone real quick, I could, it's fair. So, oh well.
But yeah, that's all. Nothing too fancy with that.
All right, so I actually have to go.
That's okay. Oh yeah, wow, it's 35.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was nice talking to you guys. Thank you for coming on, and good luck with your column project.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess we should tell people where to find it.
Oh yeah.
Right now, it's still not on AP's website. I'm not sure. I just checked earlier today. They say they're working on that. But the best way to find it is probably on Amazon. If you search for Column 1 or Column Volume 1, or you search Column 1 Morris, which is the author's name, which is my last name, it'll pop up.
That's if you want a physical copy.
That's if you want a physical copy. If you want digital, you can go to Comixology or at Comic Central. It's still up there. And that's a good way to get it. The audio is on our YouTube channel. So if you just Google Column Volume 1 or Raw Blink, you'll see it. And then there's the entire audio component. So if you're not sure what you're jumping into and you want to learn about the characters and fall in love first, then that's a really good place to start. So
yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
You're welcome. Thanks.